What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you guys through my very own wildcard draft for the upcoming Game Week 30. So how times do change. I mean, last week we were doing no thinking about our FPL squads. What ends up happening within a few days, everyone's on the wildcard at the moment. Very intense part of the Premier League season. So not only are the doubles and the blanks a lot to plan for now, most managers are actually on the wildcard chip. And in this video, I'll be going over my wildcard draft that might tempt me as well. At the moment, I want to go over this wildcard team before my current team selection, just to kind of put all my thoughts out on the table. And coming up tomorrow morning, I'll be going over if I choose to wildcard or if I don't. So in the comments down below, let me know, are you guys on the wildcard chip as well, or are you holding off? I'll be going over the pros and cons and why most managers are actually on the chip. So if that's what you guys are interested in, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. Now the first talking point, I always go over the fixtures before I talk about the actual team. I always say the bread and butter of any wildcard draft is going to be the fixtures. So let's go over the game week schedule. Now you guys might notice I've got schedule in inverted commas, and that's because at the moment these are purely projections. Nothing has been confirmed yet. So let's go over the first big talking point about Game Week 30 versus Game Week 31's wildcard, and that's going to be information, but it might not even be available by Game Week 31. Now because of the FA Cup games that have just happened over the weekend, we now can have these kind of confirmed predictions of when the doubles will be taking place, and we do expect information to be dropped by the Premier League in the upcoming days. But as you guys know, Tuesday night is going to be that Game Week 30 deadline, so by that deadline we might not have all the information, and that's why hopefully by Game Week 31 that information has come through. So that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, these fixtures might be dropped tomorrow before Game Week 30's deadline, and then you guys might be fine. But I just want to reiterate that nothing has been confirmed yet. We are quite lucky though, in the FPL community we do have legends like Ben Crellin and other FPL gurus that are pretty good at their projections. So I want to bring up Ben Crellin's latest fixture schedule on screen right now. And as you guys can see, no confirmed doubles, only likely doubles and possible ones. Now the blanks have been confirmed for Game Week 34 thanks to those FA Cup projections. Then in Game Week 37, we're going to have 2 blanks, and that's going to be whoever wins the semi-finals. So any fixtures at the moment that we can say are confirmed are double Game Week 32 as well as blank Game Week 34. The rest are down to projections, but these should be pretty accurate. So that's going to be the second biggest talking point about Game Week 30 versus Game Week 31 is how different will your wildcard team actually look like, since you're already targeting the upcoming doubles and blanks anyways. Now how your team is going to look is going to be heavily dependent on your chip strategy. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be going for a bench boost in Game Week 33 and then going to be using the free hit in Game Week 34. Now another variation that you guys can do is go for Game Week 32 as your bench boost. Between Game Week 32 and 33, there's not much difference, but when I go over the actual wildcard team, I'll go over some variations that you guys could actually go for. Now if you guys don't have a free hit, it's going to be quite hard to plan for Game Week 33 and Game Week 34 back to back. As you guys can see, every team that doubles in Game Week 33 will probably have a blank in Game Week 34. The only team at the moment that's quite hard to kind of plan for is going to be Brentford and Nottingham Forest, as their game in 34 might still take place in the midweek following the fixtures. There's been no confirmation about that though, and that's why you guys will see it's currently an unlikely double game week and a potential blank in 34. You can't really plan for that though, so I'm not going to if you guys are on the wild card. Just one of the reasons why you might want to wait for more information. Now that we've gone over the entire schedule, as you guys can see, Game Week 30 to Game Week 38 for every kind of team, let's narrow this down to the teams that have potential doubles in the future. So apologize for cutting off Ben Crellin's name, but you guys know this graphic is straight from the source. Go check him out on Twitter if you guys haven't. Now if you guys are on the wildcard, you really will be focusing on those top teams with a very likely double game week in Game Week 33, basically Crystal Palace down to Arsenal. Now thanks to that free hit in Game Week 34, you guys don't have to focus on those teams as you'll get a completely new squad in that game week, which is real help with back-to-back blanks and doubles. Now double Game Week 36 and blank Game Week 37 might look pretty bad at the current moment, but just remember, this is handling all possibilities. These will halve as there only will be 2 teams progressing to the final. Now if you guys don't know about the FA Cup finals, it's Man City vs Forest as well as Crystal Palace vs Aston Villa, and with the current projections, Man City and Crystal Palace are favoured. Therefore they will blank in 37 and potentially double in 36, but anything can happen in cup football. Now what I probably would suggest if you guys are on the wildcard is don't plan too much for game week 35 onwards. I think that you guys can probably over plan for that, and we don't exactly know the landscape of those fixtures, so rather focus on the medium term game week 30 to game week 34. Now the one thing that I've noticed after doing some planning is that game week 33's double isn't exactly that fantastic. Some good fixtures, but others aren't looking too great. For example, just take Aston Villa, Newcastle, Man City back-to-back very bad defensive fixtures, but you're kind of forced to go for some Aston Villa defenders if you're looking at bench boost. In terms of the more short term, definitely going to be focusing on Crystal Palace and Newcastle, try and get a double up or triple up at the minimum. What makes this tough is in game week 33, taking out those Newcastle assets with a single game week. I'm going to just suggest a player here in terms of my wildcard team. It's going to be Isaac. What you guys can do in game week 33 is take Isaac to Watkins as he has a double game week. That is kind of booking in a transfer, but I think it might be worth it with the extra fixture. And that's the tough part about going for Newcastle assets right off the bat. So focusing on those top sort of 5 teams from Crystal Palace to Arsenal, we can go over our wildcard draft. Let's see if you guys build the same team that I've come up with. So going on to the actual wildcard draft I created, this was going to be coming from today's news. And the big result is going to be that Erling Haaland injury. Now at the moment on Monday evening, there's been no confirmed timeline of Erling Haaland's injury. If he is out for a large amount of time, that does make certain Man City assets better, but if he is back for the short term, there could be some variation there according to the injury news. So as always, just wait and see for tomorrow's press conferences, but as always, I'm doing a deadline stream 1 hour before the deadline, so you guys can always check me out there if you have any questions. Now the biggest part about this wildcard draft is the fact that I've got 0.0 in the bank, so yes, this might be the perfect draft. But if you guys can't afford this, don't worry, I'll be going over some variations or some cheaper options, just so that this video is going to be for everyone. Now hopefully we do score 999 points in game week 30, that'll be a pretty successful wildcard week. But let's go on to the actual starting 11. And the first position that requires a bit of attention is going to be your goalkeepers. I know, probably the most boring position of any draft, but if you're looking at bench boost, might be quite good to kind of get a good starting second goalkeeper. Now at the current moment, I've got Raya between the sticks that do back the Arsenal goalkeeper, as well as that Arsenal defense overall. Now I've seen some drafts going for a cheaper goalkeeper, maybe going for Gabriel plus Saliba in terms of your back line, but Raya has been actually pretty good in my own FPL team, so I'm going to select him here. Now the second position is where things do spice up a bit, and this is where your own bench boost strategy will come into account. If you're on bench boost 32, you go for Nick Pope, but I'm going to go for Martinez for 33. And even though those Aston Villa fixtures aren't that great, I still do back him to get a few saves, and I do prefer him as a rotation pair for Raya over the next few game weeks. Now what I would suggest you guys do is go for a goalkeeper from a team that you're not going for attacking defenders. For example, you guys could go for Henderson from Crystal Palace, but I prefer the more attacking defenders. With Martinez, I guess you do have someone like a Luca Digne, a Matty Cash, but not really too fond of them, and that's why I'm going to go for Martinez. Yes, it is quite a lot of money on the bench to spend on a second goalkeeper, but just hope for some points on that bench boost. Now I'm going to complete the rest of our defense because I think it's pretty kind of set and forget. The first player, Guardiola, now that he's back, not injured, I feel like he's a great option against Leicester. Now you're not selecting Guardiola just for one fixture, has that double coming up, that's what makes him a no-brainer. But does come in quite expensive, and if he does shift back to centre back, might not be that attacking. So there could be some player, if you guys do want to downgrade him, go for a cheaper Ruben Diaz for example, that could be the play. But I'm going to go for certainty of starts, and that's going to be Guardiola. Then I've doubled up on that Arsenal defense. I've got Gabriel in the back line, do prefer him from an attacking point of view, even though the attacking threat hasn't been that great over the previous game weeks. I just feel like Arsenal's defense is one of the best in the Prem, and therefore I've gone for the double up, also double game week 33 in mind. Then we spoke about kind of not going for Henderson. I do prefer the more attacking defenders, and that's going to be Munoz by definition. Has attacking threat, has back-to-back doubles, definitely going to be going there. I just feel like he's a great defensive option in the game at the moment. As mentioned though, this defense is pretty set for me. I think this is going to be pretty template. Shout out to my own FPL team as this is my own defense. Now another almost template part of the draft is going to be the front line. As you guys can see, 3 strikers up front. In terms of importance, I think Isaac is your best option at the moment, has double game week 32, and as mentioned, you guys can take him to Watkins for double game week 33. Just a no-brainer in my opinion. Similar to Mateta, if you guys have the funds, you should go for him. When he is on the pitch, he's on penalties. Did look a bit rusty in the FA Cup though. You are ever on a wildcard, not buying for 1 week, this is for multiple weeks, and I feel like he's the best Crystal Palace attacker on his day. Not to mention Southampton away in game week 30 doesn't get much better than that, also quite a no-brainer in my opinion. The final striker, I've gone for a Man City option. If Erling Haaland is out for a long amount of time, Mamush is a perfect selection. If he is nailed, a player for this price tag from Man City is simply ridiculous. Now if you guys don't have the funds, this is a position that you maybe can downgrade. Evan Nielsen is a potential replacement, but I prefer Man City with that double game week coming up. But as with any Man City asset, you gotta accept there might be some rotation, but if he does start, I feel like there's FPL points, especially against Leicester in game week 30. So overall, the forward department and the defense kind of picked themselves for me. Yes, as mentioned, you could go for some variation, maybe instead of Munoz, you go for Saliba, but then I probably would drop Raya and wouldn't go for the triple up. That would therefore open another Crystal Palace slot for your midfield department, but I do prefer Munoz in that selection. Now there are some more no-brainer players in midfield, for example Mo Salah. I think the majority of people on the wildcard maybe sold him last week, and that's why they want to revert that change and therefore activate the wildcard chip. Probably the best captaincy option at the moment. There could be some differentials. I think Mateta or Mamush could be great, but Salah's probably the no-brainer. I then also believe a Crystal Palace midfielder is a no-brainer. I've gone for Eze because I had the funds, but you guys can go for Sarr and save the cash. I won't lie to you, as an Eze owner over the previous weeks, Sarr has performed better, but I've gone for Eze as I do believe he might be more reliable. But if you guys can't afford this team, probably the first move I would make is Eze down to Sarr, not much in it, and therefore you guys can save the funds. Now the next player might be quite bad and controversial, but it's going to be Cole Palmer. Now before you guys riot, don't worry, I know he's out of form, but this is more of a placeholder. Now if you guys didn't see the news today, Arteta said that Saka is back for Fulham and could start, but I'd rather go for Palmer with some better fixtures and then just see how Saka performs. Yes, this might be locking in a transfer, but if it doesn't happen, Cole Palmer has Ipswich in game week 33, which to me is an okay fixture if you guys have to keep him. So yes, you guys can go for Saka, but I do prefer going for Palmer and then downgrading him. I just want to see how Saka performs after a pretty lengthy injury. If you guys do have some bench coverage though, what you guys can do is just bench Saka for this week. That's a viable strategy. But at this price tag, I couldn't really get a good bench option for game week 30. Now the last option to me is a bit sideways. I don't exactly know if I want Kluivert, but he has a good fixture. And Bournemouth overall have been a pretty strong attack. The only thing with them is they don't have any double game weeks, at least for the short term. They might have one in game week 36 though. But with question marks about a potential benching this week, I might just downgrade Kluivert to someone like a Rodgers who has an upcoming double. I'm going to put him here as he is quite a popular option with some high effective ownership, but just another spot that you guys could potentially downgrade. He is amongst your other midfielders where you guys can vary this ton of almost template. At least this is the wildcard team that I would go for, but you guys can add your own spice and flavor to it. Let's go over the last 3 options to complement the starting 11. The first player is going to be Murphy from Newcastle. Now might not be the most kind of exciting pick. Definitely if you guys have the funds, I would go for Gordon even if you just have to bench him. Just remember, he's coming back from suspension next week. But Murphy at 5.0 might be a little cheap entry and a cheeky punt. Dayvy looked to complete your Newcastle triple up by game week 32. Not much more needs to be said, might not be the most exciting option, but he might tick along. But as mentioned, definitely favor Gordon, but he is quite a lot more expensive. Then next up, Livramento. I've gone for him over Dan Burn because of the yellow card situation. Dan Burn might be suspended if he racks up 2 more, I believe. If you can also afford Trippier, he might be an even better option on most set pieces, but I had to go cheap with Livramento at 4.5. Now yes, might not have the best kind of upcoming fixtures defensively, but game week 32 does look okay. Probably think between him and Burn it's quite close, but the yellow cards as mentioned tip me over. Then the final option is going to be Wan-Bissaka. You might have been looking for kind of a Konza here, but with the Game Week 33 bench boost in mind, I don't really favour those Aston Villa defensive fixtures. And Wan-Bissaka hosts Southampton at home in Game Week 33. It's a little bit of a punt there, going for a single game weeker over a double game weeker, but as mentioned, don't really favour those Konza defensive fixtures. Just I guess a slight variation on the template at the current moment, just one of the things that you guys can do to make your own wildcard teams. With 0.0 in the bank, this is going to wrap up my current wildcard draft. Has this tempted you to actually activate the chip? I'll be going over my own team selection tomorrow, where I discuss if I'm on the chip or off the chip. Lots to kind of discuss and talk about with these last almost 24 hours before the deadline, so comment down below or my Discord server, link in the description with any questions that you guys have. Otherwise, hopefully see you guys in the deadline stream coming up 1 hour before the deadline on Tuesday evening. Maybe set a reminder, I don't want you guys to miss it. This is basically all for the video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. If you guys would like to subscribe if you have subscribed yet, tons of content still to come up, so make sure those notifications are turned on. But for the time being, I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.